But even after saying it was all over, it's not like the building exploded or collapsed in on itself or anything. That wasn't the kind of ending waiting for us. Nothing changed. Well, with one exception. The air purifiers turned off. Just like Junko said. They shut off immediately. That was the only difference. Epilogue. Goodbye, Despair High School. We left the courtroom and made our way to the main hall. We stood in front of the door. Nobody made a sound. It felt almost absent-minded. This was our epilogue before the final ending. We were stuck there in limbo, unmoving, unsure. But in the end...
Hey.
We can't just stand around like this forever. At some point, we need to leave. To nobody's surprise, it was Kyoko who broke the silence.
Makoto.
Makoto, would you do the honors? Okay. As if awakened by Kyoko's words, I took out the object we'd gotten. Up until the moment of her death, it had belonged to Junko. And in the end, she dropped it before us. But is that really it? Is that really the key to this door?
Indeed.
You don't have to read into what she said too much to find the answer.
If, on the other hand, you desire to see us punished, then you must all leave this place.
I will force you out, ensuring you all die horrible deaths in the outside world. In other words...
I will force you out. She said that just before dropping that. It makes sense that this would be our way out of here. But you never know. Maybe it's actually a switch that's gonna make the school self-destruct. I mean, Junko never said specifically she'd let us leave here alive.
It's true.
You may be right about that. Maybe.
Yes.
But even so, it's impossible to think we wouldn't take our chances with it. Yeah, I guess that's true. There's nothing to worry about.
My beautiful scissors!
If something ever happened to Master, I'd take my scissors and jam them so far up. Where's the courtroom? Where's the mastermind? Yeah, Toko, you missed everything. It's all over. We're just about to leave the school. What? Leave? We could go outside? Then that means me and Master can get married. And then he'll give me a little jewel of a baby.
That's enough.
Please stop. That would be a greater horror than anything I've ever encountered so far. Anyway, don't worry. I have no doubt that we'll be able to leave here without a problem.
But...
It's what happens after we get out that I'm worried about. But you know, in the end, I think part of me still thinks...
For serious?
Maybe when we get out there, we'll see that everything she said about the world was a lie. That on the other side of this door is a world as peaceful as we remember. A lie. Peaceful as we remember. Well, no matter what it looks like, it's still our world. It's where we're meant to live. Yeah, I guess so. And how do I put this? Unlike this school, the world is really big, right? Since it's so big, I'm sure there must be some despair no matter what. But there also has to be lots of hope, right?
In other words...
The act of searching for hope, to try and find it, that by itself is the true meaning of hope. As long as you have that hope, you can keep moving forward no matter what trouble you may fall into.
Am I wrong?
Is that what you mean, Makoto? Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't need any of you to spell that out for me. You know, Junko mentioned that there were still others out there who hadn't cast away hope just yet. Maybe I should find them and make them work for me. To rebuild the world, we must first rebuild the Togami dynasty. I'll go with you. I'll follow you anywhere you want to go.
You got it!
Well, my first stop is gonna be the closest donut shop. I can figure out the rest from there.
Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are the people that are gonna help us rebuild society. And what are you gonna do if there are no more donut shops or donuts?
Okay.
I'll just get some flour and make some myself. And if there's no flour, I'll just grow some wheat. I get it now. And there's no road. If there's no road, you gotta build one. Creation. Fate is telling me to remake the world.
Could it be?
That's my hope.
How about that?
I've reached the next stage. The next chapter of Yasuhiro Hakukure's life story is about to begin.
Woo!
Thanks, Hina. You've totally opened my eyes.
Ooh!
Hey, personal space, buddy. You're seriously creeping me out.
Makoto.
Come on, Makoto. Even if everyone in the outside world is gone, even if the world is steeped in despair, as long as I have people like you around, I can face forward and keep moving. If we can get out there and do something, have some sort of impact. But what can we do? There's so few of us and we're so small. So what can we do? No. We could probably do anything. Yeah, we could do anything. We are Danganronpa.
Well, I guess
Well,
this is goodbye. And goodbye to Sakura. But hey, if we gotta say goodbye, we may as well do it with a smile on our face.
Hey guys! You guys want your fortunes told anywhere, anytime. You just let me know. I'll be there.
You know how much I hate being annoyed, but if something does come up, you may as well let me know. I can't guarantee I'll actually bother listening, but, you know.
I don't know why, but I have a burning desire to start writing. I might be able to pull it off. A story about Master and me, and the others, I guess.
Yep, we're gonna rebuild the world with a Nepo baby, a writer / serial killer, a detective, a swimmer, and a fortune teller. Oh yeah, and me. World's in great hands.
I can't say I'm sorry about what happened, but still, it does feel kind of strange.
I really don't know what to say. I guess we graduated?
It looks like hope really is spreading. As long as I never give up, I have to push even harder. I'm going to keep moving forward with hope in my heart. Since I have hope, I can show courage. Since I have hope, I can move ahead. The world can move ahead. The door began to open. With my hands. With our hands. Hope and despair mingled together, opening the door to the future. There we have it. Danganronpa.
Interesting. Things are getting very interesting indeed. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not a teddy bear. I am Monokuma. And I am this school's
I got the Easter egg present.
Danganronpa.
Hey Cryogenic, welcome to the stream, thanks for stopping by. Let's talk about the game a little bit, and then I'll talk about what our plan is going forward. So, you know, I said this before, like, I was a Danganronpa fan when this game first came out, even before the official English localization, and you can kind of see why it caught on once people started getting a hold of that fan translation and seeing where, you know, those plot threads go in the type of game that this is kind of set up to be, right? It has like the Ace Attorney thing going on, it's got the killing game going on. I know like Squid Game and Among Us weren't out at the time, but like you get the idea, right? That's why it caught on so well, along with like the jammin' music and the interesting art style. It had a lot going for it, which is why it was so popular at the time. Yeah, exactly. Monokuma will return in Avengers Doomsday, right? So, you know, after I played all 3 of the Danganronpa games, because I like all 3 of the games, and then there was a big lull, and then suddenly, you know, we had Rain Code come out a few years ago, which we played on the channel, which you guys know how that went. I was very disappointed. And then 100 Line came out last year, and I was very disappointed. And I was really worried that coming back to Danganronpa, I'd be like, oh, maybe Danganronpa's not as good as I remember. But replaying it now, I think it still very much holds up. Other than maybe a couple of the inappropriate jokes don't really hold up, but like the overall game and the story still hold up very well, both gameplay-wise and story-wise. So again, I don't know what happened with Rain Code and 100 Line. And again, if you like 100 Line, that's totally fine. It is a different experience, but it really feels like they were trying to recapture a lot of things they did in Danganronpa. And in my opinion, that was unsuccessful. But that's just my opinion. So I'm really glad that coming back to this game that I did enjoy it and it still holds up, especially because there's 3 Danganronpa games. Well, 4, but there's 3 like main games, and along with all the extra stuff, right? So I'm excited because I actually like the second and the third games I think are better than the first game. So it only gets better from here. So if you enjoyed this, what I'm trying to say is you're gonna enjoy our upcoming playthroughs. And also we still have Danganronpa 2x2, which is coming out later this year with an unannounced date. So we're gonna have even more content, and when we do that one, it's gonna be new to me as well, which will be fun, right? So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm glad, because I was really afraid that maybe if I come back to Danganronpa, I'll be like, oh, maybe this isn't as good as I remember, and I'm actually not gonna enjoy myself. But I'm feeling hopeful, if I were to use the game's terminology. Now, that being said, the game's not perfect, but let's talk about some things that I liked. Let's talk about some things that, coming back to the game, I still feel need improvement, but of course, again, this is the first game in the series, which means it does improve on some of the things I'm about to say. So yeah, like I said again, the music's good. I think the art style's cool at this point in time where we hadn't oversaturated ourselves with it. Like again, Rain Code and 100 Line use the same composer and the same artist and same writer, so it feels like at that point it's kind of like, okay, now we've done this too many times. You guys are all great, but you're all working together constantly, and I think we need a little bit of a change of pace, which I know they have a different artist and stuff for games like Shoot and Order, but I have no interest in playing Shoot and Order. Anyways, at this point in time, it was still very fresh. It was new, right? And I think the pacing was still really good too. I don't feel like there are too many moments where the game was too slow or too boring, because I feel like in Ace Attorney, for example, there's some parts of some cases that feel like they drag on a little bit, whether it's during the investigation or certain parts of some of the trials kind of drag on a little bit because they over-explain things, or there's too much like extra dialogue, or like dialogue you don't really need to go through. I feel like this game does a good job of just going straight to the point, even though there's like areas where like there's dips in the story, like the free time and stuff like that too. I feel like they weren't overly long. They didn't overstay their welcome, which is a problem when you get to 100 Line, because they keep doing this, you know, 100 Line, they spread the game out over 100 days. You have so many days of free time where nothing happens, right? Or there's so many like filler events that feel like they're trying to further the plot, but it doesn't really. So while here, it feels like it's snappy. It's like bam, bam, bam. We're going from plot point to plot point. They don't linger too long. Even like the jokes that aren't really even that funny, they don't linger on them too long and drive them into the dust, which is something I was worried about after having more recently played Rain Code and 100 Line, where they'll take one joke and then they'll hammer it to the floor as they repeat it too many times within the span of like the same 5 or 10 minutes. So this game didn't really do that, which is nice. I will say that the game also has a lot of replayability. So if you go through and you can like go back to chapter select and we can replay chapters. And the thing is that when we go back through the chapters, you can go spend free time with characters that you did not spend free time with the first time around. Or you could, for example, go spend time with characters that you already did, but you didn't max out their friendship, so you can see what the rest of their events look like. So there is a lot more replayability than something like Ace Attorney, where you don't really get that much from going back through it again, because the experience is more or less the same, which I think on that case, that's actually pretty smart of them to do. Because again, you know, you got the killing game, you got the murder mysteries, but then you also add in like the social link kind of thing, which, you know, is kind of like Persona, which people love that too. It's just a recipe for good, you know, stuff, right? The trial abilities, it's kind of neat that we have all these abilities. You talk to people, you get SP, you get abilities that you can equip and use them. Although given that if you're playing the game on normal difficulty, you don't really need any of the abilities. I haven't played the game myself on hard mode, so I don't know how much it ramps up. I'm sure all those will come into play when it ramps up. Now, a couple of things I will say I didn't really like. I mean, obviously, a lot of the jokes in this game didn't really age well. I mean, Kodaka has a certain way of writing his like pervy humor, and you know, I'm not really a fan of that, and it's very like, you know, adolescent humor, right? And I don't really like that. I mean, maybe some people that like a lot of like very anime trope ingrained things will enjoy that. I will say though that this, as far as the pervy humor comes along in this game, if you only played this game, you might be like, oh, that pervy humor was too much. Like, for example, Genocide Jill, she has too much of a dirty mouth, or Hifumi's being too pervy all the time. And I totally get that. But having more recently played 100 Line or Raincode, where half the cast is pervy for 40% of the game, this feels like an improvement, which is weird to say, because I think they did, from normal standard, I feel like the pervy humor is maybe a little bit overused in this game. But if you compare it to where we're coming from, having come back from Raincode and 100 Line, it's like, wow, this actually feels like it's tame, which is weird to think about, because I don't think it is from an objective standpoint. So that's kind of nice, but also on the other hand, it's kind of like, oh, the fact that we consider this tame is kind of a detriment. So you kind of have to overlook that, or you have to compare it to other games made by Kodaka. I'm not a fan of the pervy humor. I think it's done too much, and it's very, again, it's very adolescent humor. But I guess if you enjoy that stuff, fine. In this case, it's not as bad as it could be, which is kind of a weird compliment. It's not as bad as it could be. So I won't dwell on that too much, but it is something to keep in mind. Or if you haven't played the other games that we're talking about here, that might be something you want to look up on the YouTube channel if you want to go back and look at them. The movement in the game isn't that bad, but sometimes when you're running through the hallways and you turn your camera and your cursor lingers over something that's interactable, particularly a door, your character slows down. So sometimes traveling around, especially in the dorm area, was a little sloppy, because you would turn and then your camera would not turn smoothly because it would hover over the doors. And I know it's because this game is originally for the PSP and later for the PS Vita and then later the PS4 and Steam, so I can see why it's like that. They didn't fix that part, which is understandable, I guess. So it's not a huge thing. Doesn't get in the way of you enjoying the game, but it's still kind of annoying, I would say, and worth mentioning. Now, one thing I'll say about this game as well, in terms of cast, I think the cast is okay. Like, I like Kyoko, although there's a couple of moments where, you know, she's a little petty when she's like feuding with Makoto, or the fact that she kind of throws you to the wolves in chapter 5. She's a flawed character still, but I do like her. She has a lot of tropes that I do enjoy in a character. I really like Sakura. Sakura's really great. Her story arc was really sad and very, you know, well developed for her character. And I like Makoto too, even though he is just, you know, the protagonist, which doesn't have as much personality as some of the other characters. As the games go on, I actually like the casts of 2 and 3 more, so look forward to that. But in this game, I feel like, not that the cast is bad, but I definitely feel it has like a weaker cast as well. And also because Kyoko kind of holds your hand through a lot of the game, because she is the detective, and this is the first game in the series, so I feel like they had to hold your hand a little bit more. So look forward to that as we go and play the other games. I think the thing is, like, when we get to the end of this game too, like, most of my favorite characters are kind of gone by then. Like, I also like Celeste too, and Chihiro was cool, Taka was cool, like, they're all gone by that point, right? So, like, we still had Makoto and Kyoko, which I liked. I'm not a fan of Byakuya, but he does get better towards the end, but I'm still not really a fan of him. And then, like, Toko's funny, but, you know, I wouldn't say I like her as a character, but she's funny. And then Asahina and Yasuhiro are kind of just there. So like when we get to the end, like it's almost just like Makoto and Byakuya and Kyoko doing all the work, and then when we get to the very end, it's just Makoto and Kyoko, and then it gets to the very end and it's just Makoto. Everyone else is just kind of there. And that part, you know, I kind of feel is a little bit more of a weakness that we don't see as much in the other games, where I feel like towards the end, I feel like the characters that are left play more of a role. But I'm not going to talk too much about that because I don't want to spoil you on the future games, but I feel like the ending of this game, for me, wasn't as fun just because a lot of my favorite characters are gone by then, right? That's just the way it is. And, you know, clearly, like, Yasuhira's more of like the comic relief character, and Hina's more like, you know, the everyday girl, so I get it, right? And obviously not everyone's going to be a superstar in all areas, so I get it. But personally for me, it was like, well, Kyoko and Makoto were kind of the main things, not the only things, keeping me really interested towards the end. One of the other criticisms I have of this game that you don't see as much in the future games is that not everyone uses their ultimate talents. Like, at no point in the game does Hina's swimming ability come into play. Yasuhiro's fortune telling is kind of just a joke, and I guess you can say, well, it means that he brought the crystal ball for chapter 1, but honestly, the object from chapter 1 could be anything, right? Or Toko's a writer, she never uses her writing ability, except maybe when she's talking about Fenrir, but honestly, you don't need to be a writer to explain a little bit of, you know, Norse mythology. So it feels like a lot of times the characters' ultimate abilities didn't come into play. Some of the characters' ultimate abilities are more just their personality, like Byakuya's ultimate as the affluent prodigy is more just a reflection of his entire character, so whatever. But as we go on through the series, you'll find that the ultimate abilities actually play more of a role, because I thought it would do that. Like, you know, during the first case when we're like, no one could have thrown this thing across here to get into the incinerator, and then it's like, wait, we have an ultimate baseball player, right? That kind of stuff happens more, because it's almost like, oh, they actually have to use their abilities, and they don't really do that too much in this game beyond that. So I like the future games make more use of that, so that's something to look forward to as well. The executions, I think, we start off really strong. I think we start off with like Leon's execution, which is very brutal. They make it very intentionally brutal. You see him being dragged into the cage so we can get an idea of what it looks like, because in the other executions we don't see the characters getting dragged into the execution area. You just kind of imagine that off screen, because they did have a limited budget in this game. But for what they had, like, they did a good job. They had a lot of CGs, they had a lot of art, a lot of voice acting. They had like a lot of stuff that they managed well with what they did for their budgets. Now for the executions, right, we start off strong with Leon's. Mondo's just kind of weird. Like, I know there's like, you know, like a background to it, but it's also just kind of weird, so you're not really as shocked without other than the emotional damage of knowing the story of what happens in chapter 2. But the execution itself, which is kind of weird. Celeste was more of an ironic execution, so it hits you a little bit differently than Leon's. Alter Egos is sad for sure, but at the end of the day, it's also still just an excavator hitting a laptop, right? So you don't really feel the same way, although it's still sad, don't get me wrong. And then, like, chapter 5, I think, like, Kyoko's execution is pretty good, I think, considering that at that point you don't really know what you don't have a confirmed mention of what her ultimate ability is, so, you know, the detention after school lesson thing kind of works. It is pretty brutal if you think about it, though, because, you know, being backed up into a big crusher, you don't know how close the crusher is. You hear it getting closer and closer, but you can't really anticipate it because your back is turned to it. That's actually really scary. But then they use the same one for Makoto, because in lore it's because Monokuma prepared it for Kyoko and not specifically for Makoto. But still, it felt like, oh, I was kind of hoping for something different, so now we're reusing the execution, right? And then with Junko's, it's just reusing all of them, including the one we saw at the very beginning of the game, which you might have forgotten was the headmaster, right? He gets trapped into the rocket ship, it gets sent up, and then it crashes back down, and then you see his bones come out, which is kind of cartoony, right? Part of it's also like, you know, they don't want to make the executions too brutal for censorship, but it's a little corny, and at that point you also don't really know what's going on. It's the first cutscene you see in the game, so you might have forgotten it was an execution. So Junko's is just like a speed run of all those other ones, and I get what they're going for thematically, but just because it feels like we didn't really get enough actual executions in this game, it felt a little bit fast and a little sloppy in my opinion, right? Again, because I feel like Alter Egos wasn't really an execution to me, the Headmasters didn't feel like an execution to me, so that's already like 2 down, right, out of the 6. So for me, I feel like Junko's could have been a bit better. One little detail I like about Junko's is that right at the very end when she's about to get crushed, there's a split second where she doesn't get crushed and she looks up a little bit confused, and then she gets crushed. And I guess the point of that is because, you know, she likes the execution, right? She's anticipating despair. She's enjoying it. So she gets to the very end, she's ready for her, you know, coup de grace, and then it doesn't crush her. So she's like, why am I getting crushed? And then she gets crushed. So at that point, I get what they're doing there. It's very subtle, but to give her that like extra despair to her execution. But at the end of the day, it's still just a reused execution with, you know, it's a little goofy and nonsensical because obviously she's surviving getting pelted with baseballs and crushed by a car and hit by an excavator and all that stuff. So I feel like they could have done a better job with hers. But again, I need to consider like the budget and the theme that they were going for and reusing all the everyone executions. So I'll give it a pass. But for me personally, I feel like this game has some of the weaker executions in the series, which again means that they do get better, which I will not talk about right now. One thing that is neat though is if you look at the Danganronpa art book, which again is in Japanese, I have a signed copy of it, which I talked about before. They actually go through the character design notes and they actually talk about what hypothetically some of the executions for the other characters would be. So characters in this game that don't get executions actually have executions in written form in the art book, which is kind of neat. They've also put them into the Danganronpa wiki, so you can go look them up and read them for yourself, but of course they're just written descriptions and they've been translated, so they're not really as intense as seeing them, because some of them, if you just write them on paper, doesn't sound as exciting, right? Like Leon gets pelted by a bunch of baseballs. Doesn't really sound exciting on just paper, so you have to use your imagination, but it's kind of neat. And one thing I was thinking about playing through the game for the first time was, remember how like Monokuma's like, for Sakura's execution, he's like, well, you know, I have one prepared, but now we can't because the person that did the killing is also dead, but I had prepared something else with a special guest, right? So I thought that maybe the excavator was also meant for Sakura. Like originally Monokuma wanted to crush Sakura with the excavator because, you know, she's a very hardy martial artist, so she would need that, and then swapped out Ichigo, kind of like how Makoto and Kyoko's execution was swapped. But no, Sakura actually has another execution that's written in the notes. So if you like a character, if you're interested, I say that you should go and read about them, but you might have to use some of your imagination to kind of picture them. But it is interesting to say. So look forward to, as we play the next few games, the other executions and kind of compare them to this game's, because yes, this is the first game, so it makes sense that things should get better from here. But I just wanted to talk about that because I think that's also kind of an interesting point. I've already talked about this before, but this game, I keep comparing it to Ace Attorney because it is very much the same format. Has some advantages over Ace Attorney that I personally like. For example, in Ace Attorney, because it takes place in the real world, right, they have actual access to forensic science, right? Like autopsy reports and fingerprint analysis and stuff, which sometimes makes it hard to write a good mystery because it's like, well, this would actually be solvable really easily with fingerprints or something like that. So, or it's like, oh, well, how come in this case they didn't do a blood analysis, or in this case they overlooked the fingerprints because it's convenient for the story. But here it's because we're inside the school, we don't have access to forensics, we have to rely on Monokuma and Kyoko for the autopsy reports. So I feel like there's a little bit less of suspension of disbelief that you have to do because you're like, oh, we're already in kind of a wacky situation without access to these things. While in Ace Attorney, you're kind of like, oh, well, we're in the real world, so we have access to modern science, right? Which is, again, why Great Ace Attorney does a good job, because Great Ace Attorney takes place in the past where they did not have developed forensic science either, so it allows you to suspend your disbelief better. The other thing is that Ace Attorney, a lot of people who haven't played Ace Attorney think it's a lawyer simulator, but it's not. It's actually just a mystery game. And the law and court system in that game doesn't actually work in real life. Even people who say, oh, it's a critique of the Japanese law system, which is different than the English one, doesn't actually hold true. So a lot of people go into it thinking it's going to be like a real life court thing, and then when they find out it's not, they find it hard to suspend their disbelief if they don't know that ahead of time. But here, it's like, yeah, we're not in a court. This is a class trial. We're standing around arguing in a circle with Monokuma presiding over us. So it's easier to suspend your disbelief and be like, oh, okay, this is not a formal court proceeding. We don't have to worry about things like subpoenas and, you know, keeping people's oaths and lying and all that stuff. We don't have to worry about that. So it allows us to suspend our disbelief a little bit more, and I think that's a good thing to do. The victims in this game as well are characters that we've come to know. You feel sad when someone dies, and then you feel sad when you find out who the murderer is, and them getting executed because you come to know the characters as you go. With games like Ace Attorney, a lot of times the victims are just characters that you haven't even met, and then you just find out that they died, and then you uncover their past. And the murderers are often characters that you have only just met in that chapter, so you don't feel as much attachment to them. A lot of times, yes, those cases are sad, and you'll feel empathy for the characters, but it's not quite the same as the killing game where you're like, oh, I hope my favorite character doesn't die, or I hope my favorite character doesn't get, executed. So I think that adds an extra level of attachment for the characters, which is kind of nice. I think for the trials themselves, I like the trials, but I feel like Chapter 5 and 6 are a little weak, and it does the thing where some Ace Attorney games do this, where the last 2 cases are just interlinked cases. So Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 are kind of just one long case instead of 2 separate cases, which also means they suffer in some of the conclusions and some of the, the execution of the executions, so to speak. So I would have preferred it if Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 had separate, discrete cases, which we will see more of that in future games. I know I keep teasing these future games and stuff, but it'll make more sense when we see them. Especially because Chapter 6, the actual, mystery of who killed Mikuro is actually pretty short. We finished that in, an hour and a half. And then the second half is all just Junko giving, the exposition and then us reacting to it, which is almost exclusively Makoto. A lot of the other characters don't really talk during that point anymore. Even Kyoko kind of falls to the background. It's just a lot of Junko giving exposition. And I know at the end she explains it because she's like, oh, I gave you all that stuff on purpose because I want to give you despair. But even though the whole game was like, oh, I want you to find out the mysteries of the school, and then she hands them to them on a plate almost. I get why a lot of those things would be difficult to get across without her telling us, but it also just kind of feels like that last half of today's trial was just a lot of exposition and not too much. We didn't even have that many mini games during that part. There was only a couple non-stop debates, a couple Hangman's Gambit, the argument rhythm game. There weren't really that many. Most of the things that happened during the second half of Chapter 6 were just, you select the thing from the menu. You select the dialogue option from the menu, which isn't quite as exciting. So I feel like it lost a little steam at the end, even though I think the reveal is pretty good. I think this game perfectly kind of encapsulates everything in a nice package. It still leaves a little bit of threads for the next games to carry on. Obviously, it doesn't address what the tragedy is or how their memories were altered, but those ultimately aren't important. The how isn't important in that case, it's the effects of what happens from those events, which then get talked about more in future games. So I think in this game, they actually do a pretty good job of wrapping everything up in a nice way. Because us as the viewer, it's not really important to us what they see after they get through the door at the end, right? That's left to your imagination, or if you want to go explore other Danganronpa novels or manga or anime, you can go do that. So the reason why I say this is because when we played 100 Line, even after we got the quote-unquote true ending, it felt like there's so many plot threads left unexplored that were important that didn't get touched upon. And you might say, Kiro, you didn't do all the 100 endings of 100 Line, but I did actually go back and read a lot of them afterwards, or experience them secondhand through someone else out of curiosity. And there were just so many plot holes or things that didn't work with that game. And that game, again, was so long. It's like they went, I keep saying this, they went for quantity over quality. While here, it's like we have more quality packaged into a nice package. And I would prefer a complete package of quality than a long drawn out quantity of things that are left undone. But again, that's my opinion about 100 Line. If you have a different opinion, that's totally fine too. Other quality of life things this game could have missed: the Mono machine. If you want to roll each item individually 1 coin, it takes forever. And I know if you insert more coins, you can increase the % chance of not getting a repeat, but it'd be nice if there was an option to be like, can I just throw in 10 coins and get 10 items? Like a gacha roll, right? It would save us a lot of time, because especially when you first start the game, you're probably going to be doing single rolls at a time, and it just takes forever. It takes so long. And I think that is something that was kind of annoying. But again, old game, so I can kind of forgive them. Repeat dialogue. So if you talk to someone during your investigation, you have a conversation with them, and then you finish, and then you're still exploring the room, and you click on the person again to see if the dialogue changed, right? It just plays the entire dialogue again. And I guess that's good if you miss things easily, but honestly, it'd be nice if they did the thing that they do in a lot of other games, where, you know, you talk to someone, you get the whole dialogue, and then if you back out and you talk to them again, you just get an abbreviated version of the dialogue to save time. That would be nice. There are a lot of times where you accidentally click on the person a second time, or you click on them thinking they have new dialogue, and it's just the same entire dialogue all over again, and it just feels like a little bit of a waste of time at that point. So I wish that they did something about that in this game, just to streamline the process. But again, old game, not a huge deal. The difficulty of the minigames too, I'm playing on normal difficulty, which is not easy difficulty. We still had tutorials up till chapter 3 and 4. And even a lot of the minigames in chapter 3 and 4, a lot of the non-stop debates, sometimes they would give you only one bullet, and there'd be 2 statements, and then there'd be no white noise. And it's like, wait, but I'm like over halfway through the game. How come some of these are so easy? I feel like they should have started throwing some of the multiple mechanics at us, at least by chapter 3, and they don't really do that until chapter 5 and 6. Like, chapter 5 and 6 feel like they actually have enough stuff. There's enough white noise. They give you like 3 or 5 bullets at a time. There's multiple statements. It feels like the difficulty, like that's what it should be. But again, it's the first game in the series, so they clearly just want to ease you into it and make things easier and hold your hand a little bit. I would have preferred if they kind of let go of that after chapter 2, but not a big deal. Still something that we can think about. I think that's really all I want to say about the game. Again, this is not me hating on the game. I really enjoyed my playthrough, actually. And also, I'm really grateful to you guys for being very well behaved in the chat and also enjoying it with me. Because again, when I played Raincoat and 100 Line, I had so many people coming in and trying to spoil things, or whenever I said that I didn't like something, they would try to argue with me and tell me why I was wrong about disliking something. And even on my YouTube channel, to this day, I still get comments on 100 Line and Raincoat VODs where people are unhappy that I didn't like something that they liked, and then have to try to like disprove me or whatever on something that's ultimately subjective, which is crazy. But I know like Danganronpa fans and Kodaka fans by extension are kind of intense. So I was really scared of streaming this series because I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to do so much extra modding in the chat and monitoring. But it's been great. We haven't had anyone coming in and spoiling things. We had a couple people come in and maybe offhandedly say stuff that I had to delete their comment sneakily because they didn't realize they might have said a spoiler if they had expressed that they'd already played through the game. But it was manageable, is what I'm trying to say. So you guys were great, and I'm really glad that a lot of you enjoyed this game, because sometimes I forget that a lot of people have not played these games, because this game was such a big part of some of my internet life growing up, and so I sometimes forget that, oh, some people don't know what Danganronpa is, some people don't know what these games are like, or some people don't know who Junko Enoshima is, because again, if you look up any kind of Danganronpa thing, you will find fan art of her almost immediately, which spoils that she's Monokuma, right? And again, Monokuma is a great antagonist. Junko, I'm not sure if I really like her that much. Her switching of the sprites, I can see even you guys in the chat were like, oh, this is kind of weird. And it has a little bit of a different effect, I think, if you're playing in Japanese as well. No hate to the English voices either, but the Japanese voices are big shoes to fill. They have a lot of big names in this game. But I feel like Monokuma, not Junko, is a good antagonist. The situation he throws them all into, and, you know, all the... Again, I hate using the word despair because I feel like this game has ruined the word despair, but like a lot of the situations that they put the characters through are really like sad in an ironic kind of way and in a hopeless kind of way, which is great because it adds to the drama and makes things interesting. So I think Monokuma goes up there along with, like, you know, Beatrice and Bern Castell and Erica from Umineko, who do very similar things, right? As one of the antagonists that I like the most for just how cruel they are, which is fun, right? So we've unlocked the extras menu. The extras menu was here before, but there wasn't really anything in there to see. So there's like cutscene gallery, artwork gallery, sound gallery, and then you can look at the Mono machine, which we will do that in a little bit. There's also this mode, school mode. So this was added in Danganronpa 1-2 Reload, which is the PS4 version of the game, which is what I'm playing right now. And this is a mode in the game where you basically kind of play through the school life of the game, but there's no murder killings. There's no killing game. It's just, there's tasks to do, and then there's also free time, which means that it's your opportunity to go and have some free time with some of the characters that you didn't spend with in the game, which includes characters that didn't get enough time to develop. For example, you know, Sayaka, Leon, and Junko, at the very beginning in Chapter 1, you could only visit them at the maximum 2 times, or at least in Sayaka's case, 3 times. So, you know, even if you go replay the game again, it won't be easy to get all their events because they're not around for very long. This mode fixes that. You can go and just hang out with Leon if you really want to know more about Leon and see more about him. That's great. So this mode we will be playing, but not today. It's not a long mode, but I think it'll take 1 or 2 streams to do. And to be honest, I've never actually finished it, because most of the time I don't really care that much about the social link dating sim thing. But for the sake of completeness, we will be doing this on stream, but it won't be until next week. I might even take a little bit of a break from Danganronpa before we come back and do this. It is kind of fun, especially if you want to find out more about a character that we didn't get a chance to find out more about during the game. So look forward to that. I do want to look through the extras menu today. So, event gallery, we don't need to look through all this stuff because it is just the cutscenes in the game, right, which we have seen as we play through the game. I'll just scroll through the thumbnails so you can kind of see what some of them look like. They're all the ones with the special CGs and stuff. All these, like, introductions. Yeah, exactly. The school mode is like a what if everyone lived more happily ever after. So it's good for that too. Again, it gives the game more replayability than other games of the same genre where the murder mysteries always play out the same way. See, like, there actually are a lot of cutscenes in this game, and CGs. Despite the fact, again, that they were on a more limited budget than they were in later games. And it worked pretty well. And like, Ace Attorney doesn't have this many CGs, not even close, so... Again, this one's so unnecessary, but okay. I like how Hifumi has 3 deaths because we find his body so many times. Also, if you go back and watch the opening sequence of the game, because there aren't that many like moving cutscenes in the game, a lot of them come from the executions. And if you look carefully, you'll see like Leon and Celeste spoiling their executions if you watch the opening of the game again. But most of the time when you play the opening of the game, you don't know enough and you're not paying attention enough to spot that. But if you go back and look at it, you'll be like, oh, like, you can see Leon getting dragged off. You can see Celeste having the witch burning stake spawn behind her. So it's like, oh, there's actually spoilers here. The end, the end, the end, the end, the end. Oh, and then also the Monokuma theaters, which are pretty fun. I like his, like, wacky, nonsensical things that actually kind of make a little bit of philosophical sense. So that was event gallery. This is movie gallery, which is like mostly the executions. The voting slots. Monokuma appearing at multiple times with different amounts of characters. The finding of the bodies. Oh yeah, this one, we haven't seen this one. So I mentioned this before, but in the demo of the original game, the victim of the first case is not Sayaka, it's Yasuhiro, in order to hide who dies in the first case. So a lot of people, when they first played the game, were surprised if they played the demo that it was playing out differently than they thought. Which also means that characters like Sayaka and Junko also get trial sprites and moments in the demo, which we do not have access to right now. Oh, I need to spend Monokuma coins to get this? Okay, fine. But lo and behold, this idiot actually survives until the end of the game. I think, and then this one's like from the school mode. Perfect, there we go. Lucky again. Okay, so I came back to the Mono machine because I remember that when you beat the game, a new item gets added to the Mono machine that you would not be able to get from the machine otherwise, which I just spent 91 coins to get it, and it was that emergency escape button. The reason why we want the emergency escape button is because it unlocks a new movie here. So we have this video, Goodbye Despair High. This one's Goodbye Despair High All. So basically it's a what if cutscene where what if everyone escaped from the school together.
Danganronpa.
There we go. Sound gallery is just the music, which I will not listen to all of it now. Here, it's kind of neat. You see the silhouettes of the characters with their iPods or whatever it is. But the music's really good in the game. It's fun to, especially the trial music is pretty fun. It keeps the beat up, makes it feel intense.
Danganronpa.
This is if we want to go back to the Mono machine, which again, we have 97.2% of all the items. I'm not going to spend my coins there. What I really want is the art gallery. So this art gallery was added with this version of the game, the PS4 version. It has a lot of the concept art, so I want to go through this now. I have to buy all these though? That's silly. Do I have enough for all this? I just want to make sure, because I don't want to get to the end and realize I don't have enough coins. So there's 5 per page. Okay, there's 16 pages of it. 16, and then there's 5 for each. Oh no, there's like 80 pieces of art, but then each one costs like 3 coins. I don't have enough coins for that. Okay, I'm gonna look over. Let's start with like the interesting ones, and then we'll go back and look at this. Maybe I think once I finish the school mode, then we should get more coins back from that. I should have kept some of my chapter 5 coins. Now that I think about it, I should have had the foresight to do that. Okay, so this is concept art. I think this is worth getting. Unfortunately, because it's in Japanese, we can't read all the design notes here, but all of this artwork is already posted on the Danganronpa wiki. It's under the gallery for Danganronpa 1-2 Reload. It's not under the gallery page for Danganronpa 1, because this artwork was added for Reload. I mentioned this before, but originally in the game, you were supposed to see Makoto's back a lot when you were walking around, but then they changed it into first person. That's why they gave him an interesting design on the back of his hoodie. I like that gas mask design that they have. Okay, We have Taka. Byakuya. Like these ones sometimes, I think it'd be more interesting if we could actually read what was going on. The details of his code are actually pretty cool here. And he has a pretty cool shirt too, with that skull design. I like how they even have like their shoes and stuff. Kiro and his crazy hair. I like how there are a lot of details here that will get missed. Like all these little emblems and patterns and stuff that you don't really see otherwise. Or like the inside of their jacket or whatever. Toko's such an interesting character. It's no wonder she became a breakout favorite despite her very poor negative reaction when you first meet her. Also, Genocider Jack with all her scissors strapped to her thighs and stuff. You can even see she has like a little tally mark on her thigh there, showing how many victims she's killed. Oh, Sakura. Such a cool character. And Celeste. Ooh, look at all those details. All the lace and stuff too. Like, they didn't really need to get all those details, but they did. Or her like single finger claw and her tie as well. We have Mukuro as Junko. She's got the freckles, she has different hair barrettes. And then of course we have actual Junko. Monokuma. And Robo Justice. So these are like the full body artworks that a lot of them you see in the opening sequences, or if you go to that character's page on the wiki, they're the first ones you see. So to save my coins, I will not buy these here, but you can see these ones pretty easily. If we have enough coins when we come back, we'll do these. Some of them are more interesting than others though. Like some of them, like for something like Toko, for example, right? She's just a writer. So you don't think she'd have a very interesting piece of art, but like, it has her, it looks like she's like almost laying on the ground with books scattered all around her. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like Genocide Jack gets artwork too. I find that like the fake Junko's artwork is actually pretty boring. Like her pose is pretty boring, but the real Junko pose has her with Monokuma, so it's very obvious who she is. Okay, this one I do want to show you though. So you don't see this character in the game, but if you talk with Sakura in the game, you do learn about her past. And she talks about her dojo, right? And she talks about how there's someone in the world she needs to surpass. In her past, there's this guy, his name's Kenshiro. And he is like the ultimate martial artist. And he is her like love interest and her like senpai that she's trying to surpass. But he has more recently become bedridden because of a disease. So this is the guy that Sakura is talking about in her stories, and you don't actually see him in this game, but he gets mentioned a couple times, and they do have official artwork for him at this point in time. But this is Kenshiro. This character is interesting. This is Shikiba Santa, and he does not appear in this game. He is the ultimate botanist, and he actually only appears otherwise in a Danganronpa sound novel. So he actually doesn't really have that much information about him besides that. For some reason, they included artwork of him in this game too. There's also artwork of like the characters like the ultimate physicist, but he plays a role in Danganronpa 0, which is a series of novels, so his artwork's actually with that section. There's also special artwork for Kiyondo. If we have enough coins, I'll come back and buy it, but it's basically just Ishimaru with white hair and Mondo's ghost behind him. There is artwork here of Mikuro, actually, as the ultimate soldier. We don't really get a good look at her in the game, so this is one of her full-body artworks. She also appears in some of the side novels and has artwork there, but in this game, she does not. And if you're interested in learning more about some of these characters, go back and look up some of the Danganronpa novels and mangas and animes. A lot of times, they are not officially translated, but they include some interesting stories. Like, for example, it's revealed in one of the stories that Mikuro at some point had like a crush on Makoto. And so actually a lot of people had ship art of the two of them. Or ship art between Makoto and the fake Junko, which is kind of interesting. So this is full body artwork of them just standing, so I'm not gonna buy this here. We've kind of seen this already. Oh, this is some promo art. This artwork is really hard to find high definition versions of it. I could only find like really pixelated or poorly scaled up versions of it. I think this version in the game is probably the best version you'll get if I screenshotted this right here, because I wanted to use it for thumbnails and stuff, and I just couldn't find a nice version of it, or I couldn't find a transparent version of it either. But of course, you see it on the save screen. And funny enough, the save screen version is more pixelated and less scaled up than this one. It's so crunchy because it's from the original PSP version of the game. I like seeing Makoto with his hood up though. I think it looks pretty good. The pixel art. This is all art from the executions. Okay, let's skip on this for now. Okay, let's look at some of this promo art, some of this weird art. So originally, actually, Danganronpa, before it came out as Danganronpa, it was actually like another pitch for an idea that Kodaka had, and he eventually evolved that pitch to become Danganronpa. So some of this artwork here is from some of the original pitch, and the game was originally called Distrust. So here's Sayaka and Leon in Distrust. I don't think, like, not all these pictures are directly from Distrust, but they are, like, alpha versions of it. Like, look at this. What is happening here? Why is Sayaka uppercut slashing Leon with a leaping strike with a knife and looking all evil about it? Like, it's very, why does this exist? But okay, what scene did they have in their minds when they came up with this? I don't know. This is some, again, early concept art. This one's just called Chips. Okay. Oh, this is the Mondo Butter meme image. So, like, some of the memes in this game, like, for example, like, the 11307 is a meme, the Mondo Butter is a meme, the gif of Kyoko about to be executed out of context is also a meme. The cup noodles on Kyoko's head is a meme. There's Pudgy Princess, whatever her name is. Pudgy Princess Piggles. So this is interesting. This is concept art for what they... Apparently Sakura was a really hard character for them to design. If you look through the design documents, there's so many different ideas for Sakura at the time. This is one of the original ideas for her. They had so many different ideas for her. I think she went through the most iterations in the first game. I like what they settled on. I have another picture of Sakura I'll show you later that's not in this game. This is like promo art. Yo, Monokuma raps. He's got like a fish tattoo. He's got the Spike Chunsoft hat. Oh, I showed you this one. This is the original Monokuma idea. This is horrifying. If they went with this for Monokuma, he would not have the same marketability. He is definitely creepy. Yeah, I don't think a game with this mascot would have worked out. He is so unnerving. Could you imagine? This is art that was not used in the game, but it's Sakura uppercutting Hifumi and his shirt ripping off. This is a magazine ad. Of course, Sayaka was presented originally to be the main female protagonist, which is then taken over by Kyoko afterwards. Another magazine ad where they're dressed up as Monokuma. Another magazine ad with a lot of the characters together in a spread. How many do you have left? Okay, sweet. Oh, I have just enough coins for these, thank goodness. There's another ad. Kyoko and Sayaka looking like the two female protagonists. There's quite a bit of fan servicey pictures of Kiyotaka. Like, look at him with his muscles out. Taka became quite popular among a lot of muscle artists. You can see the ultimate botanist in the background too, and then Yasuhiro with his hair tied up. And then Toko and Byakuya actually relaxing together and not being weird. That's surprising. Oh, you can zoom in a little bit. Okay, this one I want to talk about a little bit. So here is a bunch of the characters dressed up as Monokuma, and in the background, who's this? So one of the characters you can see is Kenshiro, who I talked about earlier, Sakura's love interest. But who's that next to him? That, my friends, is Sakura. So there's another concept artwork, and I have it here, it's not in the game. This is Sakura at different stages in her life. So supposedly before she became the big muscular Sakura that we see today, she actually looked like this. She looked, you know, more like just an athletic, well-toned female student with long hair. This is Sakura before she became super bulked up. But then it raises the question, how did she bulk up so quickly between those two stages of her life? Because this must have been her in, like, middle school then, I guess? So if you see this picture, you're like, who's this? It's Sakura. There's another picture of her with Kenshiro that I've seen in the past, but I could not find it. I tried Googling it and searching it in Japanese and English, and I could not find it. There's another picture of Sakura with Kenshiro sitting together, enjoying a moment of peace and quiet, and I cannot find it again. But I remember seeing it in the past. Yeah, clearly the answer is protein, right? Oh, this is a spread of the characters. This is on the art book. So in the art book, because again, Japanese books go from right to left. So like this side's the cover, and then this side is the back. So the cover's here on the right, and then it wraps around. And again, Toko just blasting off into space like usual, being the meme that she is. And then another picture of them all being happy together. And with Makuro. And also Celeste's hair is down. That's interesting. Again, so sad to think that they were all friends. They're so cute together. Actually, even Toko looks kind of normal here. That's so strange. That's so strange. I think, if I remember correctly, in the novels, it was revealed that also, I think Sayaka and Leon at one point, like, dated, which just makes the fact that they murdered each other, or tried to murder each other, all the more sad. Although I can't remember if that's something was that a fan theory, or is that something that actually came about in the novels? I didn't read all the novels, so I'm not an expert on the expanded Danganronpa universe. I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments, but that just makes it even more sad. Wow, we actually had exactly enough coins to buy all the things I wanted. So unfortunately, we'll have to come back to buy the regular full body artwork for everyone. Like these ones. But I think once we finish the school mode, I'll have more coins and we'll be able to look at these. But these ones you've probably seen already before anyways, or they're in the opening movie. I can't believe I had exactly enough coins though. That worked out so perfectly. It is unfortunate though, because I did want to go through the entire gallery, but I guess you're gonna have to look for that after we play the school mode. Oh, maybe what I could do is I could be sneaky and I could just not save my changes and then come back in with the coins and buy the things that I didn't. But I'm not gonna do that. Wait, does that mean I can actually do that? Like if I... Oh no, oh, okay, never mind. It still saves the coins. I think it just gets rid of the new symbols. But you can see some of the artwork here though, like full body Makoto, full body Kyoko here. Makoto's art is actually kind of cute. He's like stumbling over and tripping and losing a shoe. I can't really save here. Okay, that's fine. Hey, Kiro from the future here. So, because I didn't save my progress when I exited the bonus menu, actually when I load up my game, I still have my Monokuma coins. So, I'm going to be sneaky and buy the rest of the artwork here so you guys can see it. And we can talk about it a little bit. So, I apologize for showing the pictures out of order because of the fact that we had to do that. Okay, so here's Makoto's full body art. Again, here he is tripping over, losing his shoe. It's kind of cute. I like the coloring here. His colors are nice because they're kind of like desaturated, muted. And the way the eyes are drawn. If you haven't seen it before, this is Ishimaru's or Kiyotaka's artwork. Here's him using some chalk. He's so intense with emotion. He's like crying. He's like writing these words. I think it's pretty dynamic, especially for someone whose personality is kind of stiff and uptight, and most of his sprite artwork is him being stiff and uptight. Byakuya's art, which is him in a fancy chair, striking the Kingdom Hearts Sora in the throne pose. He's got his glasses off. He looks better without his glasses, in my opinion. In Mondo's art, he is wearing a white coat instead, and he has like a sledgehammer thing. Oh no, he's holding like a stop sign, or like a road sign. Okay. Leon's pretty dynamic. He's throwing the pitch with the baseball. His clothes are like burning off. It's really cool artwork. This one's kind of weird. So it looks like he has multiple arms here. I can't believe he has like a realistic screenshot on his gaming console there too. They want to convey that he's like doing multiple things at once, like fan art and eating and gaming and all that stuff at the same time. When the Danganronpa anime came out, they actually give all the characters full body artwork again, and some of the poses are similar and some of them are different. Hifumi's actually looks really similar to this one, but I think they do a better job of conveying the movement in his hands because there's more speed lines around his arms, because here it just looks like he has multiple arms. And one of his right arms is coming out of his elbow in a weird way. But in the anime version of it, they actually draw speed lines and make it look like his arms are whipping around everywhere. Actually, you know what? I'll show you now. I might as well talk about it. If I talked about it here, I just have to grab it, so I apologize for not being prepared. Where is it? And the thing is, like, the Danganronpa wiki actually has a lot of like art available. It's not completely complete, but is this it? Okay. I guess they don't have a blank version that's just white on the background. Oh, here it is. So, he's paired up with Mondo in this artwork, but you can see it's similar but different. He's whipping his arms around. I know it's hard to see because there's also like a Monokuma symbol painted over him with yellow. But it kind of looks a little bit more like his arms are moving about fast. This one's okay. His hair really takes up a lot of the space here, the real estate. Sayaka's gives her an entirely different outfit for when she's on stage, as compared to putting her in a school uniform. Kyoko's is cool. She's got that like floatiness to her. Of course, Asahina's is about donuts. She's the ultimate swimmer, but most of the picture here is of donuts. Non-copyright infringing donuts. And again, it's the same with her anime art. It's her in a swimsuit here, but also there's like donuts everywhere. Here's the Fukawa, Fukawa one that I have that shows her that the books look like they're just scattered around her. It's pretty cool. It makes her look pretty mysterious for a character who's just about, she's just a weird girl who writes. Of course, Genocide Jack gets pretty cool ones too. You can see a little bit of her markings on her thigh. Sakura's is cool, of course. See, like, some of them are so dynamic and some of them are not. I mean, they're either like super dynamic, like Leon's and Sakura's, or they have like cool set pieces, like Celeste's and Toko's. Like this, where they just have a lot of cool things in the background. Which is why I think the Junko Imposter one is pretty boring. Like, for the Ultimate Fashionista, this was kind of a boring artwork. I want to guess that this one might have been drawn earlier, because it doesn't look as dynamic. It's kind of an awkward pose. And then, of course, we have Junko, the real Junko, with Monokuma, and then Monokuma by himself. Here's Kyondo. Ishimaru channeling the spirit of Mondo. Okay, we already looked at Makuro's. So the full body artworks are also used in some of the openings and stuff in place of the other artwork. Look at the details on his coat though, they're pretty cool. Leon's shirt is really cool too. No donuts in this one. You can see it's funny because some characters in the opening sequence use this standing artwork and some of them use like the dynamic artwork. And characters like Asahina, for example, they use her standing one instead of the one with her with all the donuts. All the pixel art. I do like the little touch that during Junko's execution, she just walks off with Monokuma instead of being dragged off. See, this artwork also appears during the opening sequence. It's the same one used during his execution. And it's like, major spoilers if you know what you're looking for. Mondo Butter. Fire Truck. Again, it's so weird to see the floating heads without the necks. Because their hair looks kind of odd. And then Junko's execution. Oh, and again, we have exactly enough Monokuma coins. Everything else here we've already seen. Okay, perfect. Again, we have exactly enough Monokuma coins. How fortuitous. Okay, but there we have it. Danganronpa. Join us next time on stream where we will play the school mode, the what if simulation, where no one's killing each other and we can all become friends. But I might not do that with the immediate next stream. I might wait until later next week to do it because I think I might need a break from Danganronpa. So I have a couple other games queued up. We will see what we feel like next week. It's a good thing I didn't do the trial yesterday on stream after doing the investigation for Chapter 6, otherwise this would have been a super long stream. And I would have been so tired, so I'm glad I saved it for this one. Thank you so much for joining me here on stream. I hope you enjoyed Danganronpa. If it was your first time, or maybe you were reliving it, look forward to the school mode, and also look forward to playing Danganronpa 2 on stream. So our goal is to play Danganronpa 2 on stream before 2x2 comes out. And you might be wondering, Kiro, why would you do that? Because 2x2 is supposed to be a remake of 2. 2x2 is supposed to have an alternate story path, as well as the original story path. So when 2x2 comes out, day one, I want to start the new path, because it would have been new stuff and I don't want to be spoiled. So ideally, I want to play the original Danganronpa 2 first, so you guys can also experience that story, and then when 2x2 comes out, then we can immediately go into the new story, and then we can play Danganronpa V3 and another episode further down the line after that, because those take place after, well, they came out after 2, so we don't have to worry about them as much for spoiler territory when we play 2x2. So look forward to that as well. Thank you so much for coming to the stream. Let's find someone to raid. Oh, he's still streaming. Is he ending? No, okay. Let's go say hi to Kieran. He's playing Final Fantasy XIV. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye, froggy friends.